The Xbox Series X is just a 4K disc version of the Xbox Series S, for the most part. Let's compare these two consoles. What's up, guys? My name is Nikolai and this is Joyshift. It's a new gaming channel I just opened up. We like to film cars in Forza Horizon 5 and also do tech reviews, and for the most part we also play other video games as well, but we do keep it mostly car related and tech related. So go ahead and make sure you subscribe because we're gonna have a whole lot of fun content on this channel. Now jumping right into this video. So I have the Xbox Series X and the Series S behind me. I want to compare these two consoles and see which one is right for you and which one is kind of overkill. So really the main difference that you're gonna compare when, first of all, I just want to preface this video and say that when I'm comparing these two consoles, I'm not comparing them by the exact tech specs, just looking at a piece of paper and seeing this one has this and this one has that, or comparing times or anything like that. I'm talking more so about user experience. You know, when you play with both of these consoles, which one are you going to enjoy more for the money? Which one are you going to enjoy to the point where you don't even notice the other things that the Series X might offer versus the Series S lacking, which for the most part, spoiler alert, is not that many. So it's mostly just like user experience and just basically how much can you enjoy it and what fits better for you. Now, I have owned both of these consoles for about a month now, and I'm not sponsored by anyone here, so this is truly my own opinion here. So just jumping right into it. The main difference that I'm able to notice is the Series X is able to play games at 4K, which is native 4K. The Series S plays natively at 1440p, which is 2K. But here's the thing, the Series S is able to upscale to 4K. So let's say you have a 4K TV, you will still be playing your game in 4K. It's just gonna be an upscaled version of 4K rather than native. Now, what's the difference between these two? So native is the console is actually playing 4K versus upscaled is gonna be 1440p, and then your TV is gonna output it in 4K. So it's not native, it's not what the console is doing, but it's still viewing in 4K. So if you compare the two consoles side by side, yes, the Series X is gonna be crispier, but that doesn't mean the Series S is going to look bad. And while we're on the topic of 4K, I also want to mention that in order for you to really be able to see the difference between these two consoles, the funny part is you have to have a very nice TV. I mean, you really need a newer 120 hertz refresh rate, 4K TV, especially if you have like an OLED TV, that would even be better. But you really need a top of the line TV just to be able to see the difference of these and actually utilize the power of the Series X, because let's be real, for $500, the Series X is such a powerful console. These consoles are very difficult to get, but the Series S is easier to obtain. You can, for the most part, just walk into any store if the time is right and get a Series S versus a Series X. You might have to get it, resale, or just have to try really hard on a drop to actually get it. So I think that's a huge plus for the Series S, is just availability, right? Like you're able to just get it much easier at the $300 price point. And basically you're going to pay $300 for it, versus like a Series X. You might even see these things selling for like $1,000, which is just insane. So Series X loses in that sense where it's harder to get, and for the most part, you can't even use what it has. So it's like, why should you try so hard? And this is kind of going into a thing where it's like almost I wish I knew this before picking up my Series X. So I thought the Series X, I put this thing on a pedestal. I said, this is the best console out there, and this thing is going to be insane. It plays native 4K. It's going to be beautiful games. It's got true ray tracing. Everything is going to look amazing. It's going to be just beautiful. And let's be real, it's not that much different than a Series X. I mean, when you're playing it and you're looking at it, and especially when you're thinking more so about gameplay, like how much do I enjoy the game? So for example, Halo, when you're playing a game like that, the consoles are both able to get you a really high frame rate. It's just, like I said, one of them has better ability to ray trace, because while both consoles do offer ray tracing, a lot of developers have said that they don't want to actually offer ray tracing with the Series S because they just don't want to be able to try and, or I guess they say the Series S just can't really handle it for the most part, so they just leave it for the Series X. So while both consoles do have it, a lot of games actually offer ray tracing only on the Series X. But going into games here, There is not a single game that is on the Series X that you can't get on the Series S. As of now, at least from my understanding, every game that is available is optimized for the Series consoles. So you can get a Series S or X and play any game out there that's available for the Xbox consoles. So, it's not like it's like a PlayStation versus Xbox thing where PlayStation has some exclusives and Xbox has some exclusives. They're both Xbox consoles, so you are able to get all the games that the Xbox does have to offer. Now, for me, if you're someone like me, before I started this gaming channel, I was actually only playing video games for maybe an hour to a week. I've been so busy, and then coming home, I just want to come and play the video game for like an hour, and then that's really all I could do per week. Now that we have a gaming channel, I'm taking it a little bit differently, so I am playing for the most part every day. But if you're someone like who I used to be, I guess you could say, where I would play maybe just once a week, it literally is so, I want to almost say pointless to get a Series X, because when you're only playing for like a little bit on like a weekly basis, you're not even going to notice the differences nor probably care for them. Now, if money isn't an issue and you're able to actually get access to purchase a Series X, by all means go for it. It's clearly the better console here if money isn't a thing, but I think when we start to bring in money and then availability and just being able to actually purchase one of these, and then like, let's look at it this way. If you buy a Series X and you want to be able to use its full potential, you need to get a very nice 4K high refresh rate TV. You have to make sure that your Wi-Fi is actually able to keep up with it. There's also just other variables and factors that really need to go into this in order for you to actually be able to use this console for what it's made for. And then you have the Series S. The TV you already have right now at home probably will look great with the Series S. You don't need this highest refresh rate, absolute 4K TV. If you've got a 1080p TV, for example, even it'll still look good. Now, the issue here is though at 1440p, it's a very weird resolution because a lot of TVs aren't offered in 2K. I know some monitors are. Obviously, there are some out there, but it's more common that you see either a 1080p or a 4K TV. You never really tend to see the in-between, which is 2K here. So that's just kind of the interesting thing. But like I said, the Series S can still play 4K. It's just going to be upscaled 4K, but it still does look beautiful. Now, for games like Forza Horizon 5, what I've been able to notice is there's just a little bit more detail in like the trees. So when you're playing on a Series S, you might see less bushes and less trees out in the render distance. But with the Series X, you are going to see a little bit more out there. So it's little stuff like that, but it doesn't actually hinder gameplay. And I think that's what I want to get at is you really don't need a Series X just to have fun. These consoles are both going to give you a lot of fun. And let's say your end goal here is just to have fun. You don't really care too much. You just want to have a good console, but you're worried that, oh, the Series X is just so much better than a Series S. You'd probably feel like, oh, I really need to get a Series X. But in reality, the difference between a Series S and an X is so minimal if you're that type of person that it's just really not noticeable. Now for me, I like to have native 4K because when I film videos for you guys, I want to make sure that you guys can get them in the highest quality. So I do like to have them in 4K. But, if you're just out there to have fun, I think the Series S is a really good console. Now, going into the looks of these consoles, the Series S is much smaller, and it is actually quite impressive just how small this thing is. So, literally putting it next to my head, you can just see this thing is tiny. This is maybe the size of like an iPad. Obviously, it's much thicker, but the actual size of it is basically like a long iPad, I guess you could say. It's so crazy to think that we have this much power inside of such a small console. Now, I think a huge reason they're able to do this is there's no disk drive. So you do get that with the Series X versus the S. So if you're someone who has a lot of disc games from like the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, you're definitely going to want to go for the Series X. But if you're someone who's new to gaming and maybe you're going to use Game Pass, which Game Pass is pretty interesting, but we're not going to talk about it in this video, the Series S is a great combo with Game Pass, so I think that's a good way to go. Now, we also have to get into the topic of, let's say you're new into gaming and you're thinking, I don't have a console at all. I've never really had a console. Which one should I get? I would say just go straight for the Series S because if you don't have any previous games, there's really no benefit to having a disc drive because all games are available now on digital, so why do you really need it? But, just like I said, going into the looks, I like the way this console looks. It's much sleeker in my opinion because, let's be real, that one right there, it's just a black box. They're both just plastic boxes. The build quality doesn't feel as high quality as, let's say, a PS5. These definitely feel more on the cheaper side, but they look fine. You've got your cooling fans all on the side, on the top. Everything works. The only thing is, like, if you press the power button here, it just feels so cheap. These things don't feel the highest quality, and it definitely shows. But they do look cool from far away, and they are just consoles, so all you're ever really doing is touching the power button. And that's really it. And then you do have the same amount of actual like ports on the back, so it's not like it's any different there with the Series S or the X. This thing is huge. So now that I have the Series X in my hands, look how much bigger this thing is. I almost feel like I have to be like actually like holding this with some support because it is so much heavier and bigger. But I do like the design of the Series X. I think for simplicity, it does look good, but I think PS5 wins all consoles. I mean, that thing just looks so sick. You're not getting any lights here. PS5 has lights on it, but this one, you just have your disk drive and then basically black everywhere else, which, you know, it's totally fine. And then over here on the top, it actually has like this green in like painted on the inside. So it does look cool like that. Now, maybe if you got like a Halo edition, it would look cooler. So I'm thinking actually drop some ideas. Maybe I'll do like a custom skin on here. Maybe wrap it a cool color. I don't know. Maybe we'll wrap it yellow to match my car. So check out those videos actually on my main channel if you want. I do a lot of car videos. So check those out. But yeah, maybe I'll wrap it like yellow, just like how my car is wrapped. So we'll see. Same thing. Pressing the power button here, it just feels really cheap. But I mean, I think it looks fine. It's just, it could be better. And then another thing, this is matte black. So it is a fingerprint magnet. I mean, if you touch it here, you're going to get fingerprints all over it, but that's totally fine. And then one thing that is to note with the Series X versus the S is they are both capable of cooling themselves just fine, but this one does have a humongous fan on the top. So this one's going to do a little bit better with cooling, but it also has to, you know, run a little bit heavier duty stuff. So it kind of balances out. So just to let you know, side note is this one does have the bigger fan here on the top. So in conclusion, if you're someone who really is just crazy about gaming and you want the absolute best, by all means, go for the Series X. It is a great console, but to compare it to the Series S is a great value for the money. The amount of power you get in such a small, low price console is truly incredible. So I think for the vast majority of people who don't even notice the difference between 4K and 2K, 100% just go for the Series S. It's easier to get. Don't stress yourself out trying to get a Series X because it truly is not that worth it. The Series S is already a phenomenal console. Now, if you really need that disc drive, obviously go for the Series X. But if you're happy with Game Pass and a lot of your games are already digital, go for the Series S. I don't see any problem with it. I think it is a great console for the vast majority of people. I think the Series X targets a very niche market for the people who do play a lot and people who really enjoy video games to the point where they can notice a difference between 4K and 2K and they really care about that. But for most people who are just going at it just to have fun and just get the gameplay going, you know, the storyboard, everything is there with the Series S that the Series X would have. So just go for the Series S, and I think most people would have a blast with it. But other than that, if you enjoyed this video and want to see many more just like it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is actually my first tech video, so if you guys enjoyed it, definitely do subscribe because I do plan on having a lot more on the channel. But other than that, we'll see you in the next one.